Today we are going to speak a little bit on BRICS: Brazil, India, Russia, China, and South Africa. South Africa works actively against genocide in West Asia because South Africa itself was affected by apartheid, right? If you take the BRICS, Indians are still in BRICS, but India has been, in my view, India has been replaced by Iran. So if you take China and Russia, you have Iran in it, and you have North Korea in it, and Turkey work with Israel and the Americans, and Turkey being a country in the NATO, and Donald Trump saying that the leader of Turkey, Erdogan, is his friend. In recent times, Turkey has moved towards China and Russia. Now, if you take what is happening in Venezuela, Venezuela is also being incorporated into BRICS, which is the biggest threat to America in a way. So America's domination in Latin America is going to be challenged via the BRICS. Because Modi works, Modi has this Hindu agenda. He works with Israel. So, of course, Modi uses a lot of Indian oil, and the rupee, the Indian rupee has been declining in value because it uses up a lot of oil and things like that. So Modi needs the Russian oil, but he is on both sides, and because of his Hindu agenda, he works with Israel. So unlike other leaders of India, and I think the Russians and the Chinese know that, okay, but they don't want to get rid of India because that would be a positive thing for the Americans, right? So when it comes to India, the Chinese and the Russians are playing a game, so that they don't want to push India into the American camp, right? So when you come to so-called economic growth, what you get mostly in the BRICS countries and the countries which are aligned to it. So I don't accept this system because I am saying that you can't have economic growth forever. So I don't accept this Newtonian economics. Now, America has abundant electric cars, and America is going back to petroleum cars, or cars based on combustion engine, and it is going to drill more and more for oil. So it is going back from the so-called electric vehicles agenda, and is going back into petroleum. And if you look at the leadership in solar energy and wind power, it is Chinese. Okay? So what the Chinese and the Russians are now is concentrating on Venezuela, so because they want to They want to have better relationship with Latin America. So that is the role of BRICS is becoming more active than being more passive, because Chinese do not impose political conditions, unlike in America and in Europe. Now you have this person George Galloway, which I mentioned. He was detained in the airport because he was against the Ukraine war, right? And the Ukraine war has bankrupt most of the European countries, West European countries, and some of the European countries have good relationship with China. Okay, so even China has strong financial relationship with some of the European countries. It is hidden. That is what Yanis Varikov says about certain countries in Europe. So China is driving economic. They are the main driver in economic front, not America, not Europe, and most of the European countries in bad shape because the energy cost is high. So this thing tallies with my economics. I don't believe in developed countries. I believe in something called countries which consumes large amount of energy. So that's based on this entropy. Okay. So what my work has done, my unfinished work has done on entropy, it has been validated by the European countries. Most of the European countries are supposed to be developed, but they are having severe crisis because the energy prices have gone up about 2 or 3 times after the Ukraine war. Okay. Now what Donald Trump is trying to do is trying to stop the Ukraine war so that he can have economic relationship with Russia, and the European countries are against that. Okay, but some of these people in America and Europe are there. They want to continue the Ukraine war because they think that it is destroying Russia. So this is something called Keynesian militarism. That is, you have these Keynes ideas being applied to military in the defense industry, where some of the Russian economic growth is due to the war in Ukraine. Now, if you take America's economy, is mainly due to this military defense complex. Now, America is trying to use AI for their economic growth, and my understanding is that AI it belongs to the artificial intelligence. It mostly belongs to predate economics. So I think Chinese is going to destroy the AI industry in America. Okay, but there is lot of information, fake information or what it is, where America is condemning the Chinese AI industry, saying that it is a spy network, that is used for spying. Now, okay, so But Chinese AI industry is much cheaper. It's much cheaper so that it will be used in Asia, Latin America, or South America and Africa. And the Europeans and the Americans will be stuck by the more expensive AI industry. Now, if you take the TikTok in America was bought by the Israelis because the TikTok in America showed it was one of the institutions which showed the genocide in Israel or in West Asia. And Mrs. Hillary Clinton has condemned the TikTok because they showed the genocidal part of this Western agenda in West Asia. And according to Francisca Albanese, 63 countries are a part of this genocide. They are by one way or other, indirectly or directly, they are part of the genocide in West Asia. So we have seen a lot of censorship coming into Europe and America because of what is happening in West Asia and Ukraine. So in my view, you put a lot of censorship when you are losing, when you are in a defensive mode. Only you put this censorship, right? So America is also a problem because it was borrowing money to balance its deficits, and a lot of these countries in the world is not buying American bonds anymore. So American bonds are bought by Japan and Britain and things like that. And Japan has a problem after 25 years of quantitative easing. Japan is increasing its interest rates, and some of the investments in America by Japan is coming back into Japan. So that means America is going to have more crisis. Chinese are moving away from American investments. British have a lot of investment in America, right? So Britain also has severe economic crisis. So if Japan and Britain pulls out these bonds, then it is going to be even tougher for America. So this is the situation. If you take the BRICS doesn't impose conditions on countries which deals with it unless the Europeans and Americans impose conditions. Okay? So I don't believe in this economic growth theory, and after certain limits, economic growth become negative. So I believe in steady state economics. Now, mentioning little bit on net zero. Net zero is condemned. Net zero in carbon emissions is condemned, but you can work towards net zero. That means I believe we have to reduce carbon emissions. The Americans are going the other way. They are trying to increase more carbon emissions because that will isolate them in the world economic trade. Now, net zero has been condemned, saying that it is an unrealistic thing. Okay, it may be unrealistic, but you can work towards it, right? So that means Net zero is means you emit carbon, then you make other investments so that that carbon is absorbed or it's taken out from the atmosphere. So you invest in decarbonizing, or you grow new jungles or something like that, and so net zero, you can't have it as a goal, but you can work towards it. You can reduce your net emission of carbon, right? But Donald Trump is trying to go back into emission of carbon. But if you take some of these local governments in America, they want to reduce carbon emissions. So there is some conflict, or there is some friction between Donald Trump's vision and some of the political leaders in America. Okay, so I touched upon the BRICS. I touched upon a little bit on what India's role is, or Modi's India's role is. And then I have touched upon this economic growth favor. You can't have economic growth favor. That's physics. Okay. You have to go for steady state economics. Then there is this rift between America and Europe. So BRICS will be very important, because BRICS doesn't insist on conditions. It doesn't try to impose conditions. So BRICS will be much more important. And Europe is having severe crisis because energy costs are high. Okay? And some of the European nations still want to sacrifice Ukraine. So they think they can destroy Russia at the end if you insist on the Ukraine war. And some of the, according to Yanis Varoufakis, some of the European countries are working with China. Okay, they get their finance from China because European countries are in real bad shape. So BRICS countries are more active. At least China is more active than what is shown on the surface. Right? According to Yanis Varoufakis, a lot of European countries have borrowed. They have a lot of investments coming from China. So what they are doing now is they are trying to use the BRICS financial system, the clips and things like that, to make America weak, right? But China will never destroy the dollar system. Okay, they want America to make a lot of mistakes, and America to make dollar weak and weaker. So they will not go in for concentration as far as the dollar is concerned. This is my view. And the Chinese will use the dollar system when it suits, but it will use this CIPS, CIPS system to make the yuan, the Chinese currency, become more reserve currency. But Chinese will never open up their capital account. Okay, and there were some of the American economists who was advising indirectly China to open up the capital account. So my gut feeling is they will never open the China capital account, but they will use the yuan currency for trade and as also some kind of reserve currency.